Afternoon. It's been a beautiful day of music here at Weatherford College. My name is Brent Baker from WC, and we are so happy to have you at the Weatherford College International Piano Competition. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for helping us celebrate beautiful music and wonderful artistry of our contestants. I would like to recognize a few people, but before I do, I'd like to bring up onto the stage the finalists of the junior division of this year's competition. When I call your name, if you'll please come up to the front. Do we have enough seats for everyone up here? Oh, okay, we're just gonna stand. Okay, thank you very much. Well, before I do that, I do want to recognize a couple of people. The young lady standing behind me is the brain of this whole operation. She started this, I believe, in 2019. She's the master pianist of Weatherford College. Please thank Dr. Haeyoung Song. We would like to recognize our wonderful judges. We would not have this event without our judges who have come from near and far and that have spent a lot of time today. And I'm sure it was difficult deliberating on some wonderful artists today. We want to thank Dr. Carol Leon from Southern Methodist University, Dr. Jose Ramon Mendez from Northwestern University, and Dr. Stephen Spooner from the Peabody Institute. I'd like to invite to the podium the Dean of Fine Arts to say a few words, Mr. Dwayne Durrett. Dwayne?
Thank you, Brent. It's a great honor to be here today and hear this incredible talent. I mean, I have to stop and think, these are pianists 17 years and younger. So it's just a thrill to see this talent, to see this dedication. And so to each of you, nobody loses here. Somebody will be first and second and third, but please know that each of you is on a musical journey and you grow. And somebody may get a trophy, but you all walk away from here with a special feeling, and Weatherford College recognizes that. We honor and respect all musical forms here, and we want you to know that we appreciate all your effort. I've really enjoyed the interviews out here. This is something we just, Dr. Song came up with, and I want to recognize Michael Robertson, one of our students, for the insightful questions, and I learned a lot. I know we've got some people that would like to be basketball stars out here, but they play beautiful piano, so thank you so much. Our president, Dr. Todd Allen Farmer, is traveling today. He couldn't be here. He's a big supporter of Weatherford College, big supporter of the fine arts and all of you. And we thank you for all you've done, the time and travel that some of you had to do. We appreciate it, and we hope to see you again. I'm going to bring Brent back up. And again, another special thanks to Dr. Song and all of the people that made this happen, are on the campus, all of the food provisions. There are many things that go into making this happen. So I'd like to thank them, and again, thank you, and we will see who wins here very soon.
Thank you, Mr. Durrett. I'd like to ask all the participants, and by the way, these are the finalists of the Weatherford College International Piano Competition Junior Division. There were many, many entrants this year. They were whittled down to a small group by a preliminary slate of judges, and so just by being one of the finalists, it's something special. I'd like to ask you to stand, and you can hold your applause until I've introduced all of the Junior Division finalists. Eric Rutkovich from Texas, Teresa Tran, also from Texas, Eugene Wang, from California, Meining Wu, from Texas, Matthew Scott, from California, Frederick Chiu, from Texas, Nikita Simonenko. From Canada, Ha-Jung Chung. From California, Brian Lynn. Okay. Let's bring all of the finalists on stage, please. And we're going to have you stand all together. Please give these folks a warm welcome. Okay. Each one of you will be receiving a certificate from Dr. Song, and we're going to, at the end of the program today, take some photos. So please stick around, all of you, for that. While we do that, I would like to remind you of a couple of things happening for the rest of the day and tomorrow. We are very fortunate to have Dr. Stephen Spooner with us as one of our judges, and he'll also be conducting a master class right here in the Alkek Theater directly after about a 5-minute break for photographs. So please stay for that. We'll really enjoy. And speaking of Dr. Spooner, he'll be presenting a concert tonight, a piano recital on this stage beginning at 7 o'clock. That is a free event on this stage at 7 o'clock. And Connor, would you like to go ahead and take their photo now while they're all up here? Let's do that. That'd be great. Thank you. Yes, tonight on this stage, Dr. Stephen Spooner will be giving a piano recital, and please join us for that. Then tomorrow, we'll have our Young Artist Division final round. That'll begin at 8:30 with our first contestant, and we'll have our final division with a lunch break, and then an awards ceremony beginning at about 3:40 tomorrow afternoon. All right. Yes. It is time to announce our first, second, third, and honorable mention winners. And again, we want to thank our judges for this. First of all, honorable mention, these are in no particular order, but thank you to Mei-Ning Wu and Teresa Tron. The third place winner, Brian Lynn. We have to pause for photographs. It's very important nowadays. Second place, Matthew Scott. Pause. And the winner of first place of the 4th Annual Weatherford College International Piano Competition Junior Division, Haejung Chang. Congratulations to all of our finalists who are here today. We are very proud of you and all your hard work to get here today. We look forward to seeing what you accomplish in the future. We hope you stay for the master class, and we hope you enjoy some of the activities, including tonight's recital by Dr. Spooner. We will begin the master class in just a few minutes right here on the stage. Thank you again, and thank you for your support.
to congratulate this young man, Hajun, on a wonderful performance. Really, you played so beautifully. I was so impressed by so many things that you did. You're a wonderful pianist physically. You have a lot of wonderful ideas. You are comprehensively interesting, meaning I listen to you when you're playing lots of notes brilliantly, and I'm also listening to you when you play lyrically. And that's really important. Just a few questions. Now, because we heard you play brilliantly and your piece is quite long, let's dive into this. Have you read Dante?
No, I haven't, but I know it's a novel. Yeah.
Not quite. Yeah. No, it's imperative to read it. Yeah. It really is. Liszt said that young pianists need to read more and practice less so that they have something to play about, which I think is a beautiful quote. You have to also acknowledge Dante, to Italians, is the greatest product of literature in their language. You know, the Germans have the Goethe Institute because they're so proud of Goethe. The Italians have the Dante Institute. It's very important for them. The reason it's so important is because it fills us with so much creativity and imagination. We have to realize that Liszt is music that must be musically of the highest caliber, because that's how he was as a pianist. You know, Schumanns, who were not particularly fans of Liszt, they said, "We heard Liszt for the first time, and we both wept." Because Liszt is a master of interpretation. He's a genius of interpreting the music, bringing it alive. And so it's really important to know that beautiful monument. By the way, all of it rhymes. Do you know that? It's quite beautiful. When you listen to it in Italian, it's something. And I have to say, for an English speaker, it takes time to read it because it's rather impenetrable. For me, I needed to actually go online and find some tutorials on it because it's hard, it's not easy to read. But do you know what it describes?
I think my teacher described it as like there's like heaven and hell, that kind of aspect. Yeah.
Yes. Certainly. And this is the hell part. You know, right before this piece in the Italy here, we are confronted with a piece of really heavenly content. That's the Petrarch Sonnet 123. And then right after, we're confronted with these two pitches, which has always been the devil in music, the tritone. And so I would tell you the first thing about playing this piece, the very first thing is reading the novel. That is, it's irreplaceable in your playing. And it will imbue your performance with a new kind of interest and richness in the playing. I wonder if we can just get started in the introduction. And I think that the entire Italy book should be played without a break. And so the opening has to be arresting because we just ended with this gorgeous, gorgeous thing in A flat major. And then we have an A. Listen. Good? Different. Maybe more. Maybe different. So those two chords, I would suggest not the same. Okay, let's go on. If I were you, I would think differently about this. Because the higher register suggests high instruments to me. I would play them louder. This suggests strings. Can we just try it? Just try it. Then less. Yes? More. Now, one of the most important elements in playing Liszt, probably the most important, is pacing your crescendos. That means that you have to decide in the piece where the loudest possible moment is. For you, what would that be? No, I mean in the whole piece. What's the loudest moment? You didn't know there would be a quiz, yeah? I don't think so. How about the end? Yeah, I mean, he's giving you so much texture. He's giving you that long pedal, you know. Now, the challenge is not making any climax as loud as that. One has to remember that dynamic markings are not indicators of decibels necessarily. They're indicators of character. And I would say, be careful here to save your loudest moment for this, that chord. Please don't get too loud too soon. I wonder if we could try. And this could be something that you could apply in general through the whole piece. Less. More. Shh. Now. Shh. And this is dissonant, but not the G. I wouldn't make a crescendo to the G. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, and that's right. So you don't count this, and lots of pianists don't, but I would highly warn against it. Please count this very long rest. The reason is, this music that we've heard here is not really piano music. This is orchestral music, easily. I mean, we could easily orchestrate this. Liszt is not one of these composers that we can look at the score and say, wow, Liszt was such a flamboyant performer, I can do whatever I want. No, it's quite the opposite. Actually, we could get away with some freedoms in Schumann, for example. But with Liszt, there is a degree of rigor that I would suggest that we follow. And by the way, Liszt writes a beautiful long pedal which you disregard in this little solo. I wonder if you could try it. Yeah. Because the melody on the beat is in the left hand, we probably want to hear the left hand. Yeah, and he marks it, I'm sorry, until the G, the pedal. Yeah, and there's not really staccato. It's a foreign sound. I want you to imagine that these are strings. Yeah. Better. Avoid staccato. Good. And then he writes the word what here? Stringendo, which means to become a little more forward moving. Yeah, so please don't start too fast. Crescendo. Those dry sounds do not belong to the orchestra. And Liszt writes clearly a pedal on all of them. Remember, by the time Liszt wrote this, he was in Weimar years. Even though he wrote this early on, he revised everything by the time he had a modern piano. Better? Good. That's better. And try to voice this low. D. Good. Listen to your pedal. It's different on every piano. This is pretty. It's very pretty. But for me, the character is, I would like to suggest a little something different. You know, there's a scene in Dante where he describes it as, we entered a room and the suffering was so great that I instantly fell down on my knees. I think about this moment here, that there was great suffering. For me, it's a little calm. I wonder if we could think about that. Start on D. Intense. More. Not too slow, not letting up. Feverish. No breaths between. Show the bass. Please count. Please count. Not faster. Go on. Go on. Good. More. That's very good. More. Here, I lost your melody. Got to hear that. Please don't rush. Please don't rush. Here, it's beautiful. Show me that. I have to congratulate you. You are playing within yourself more. It's one of the harder things to do in Liszt when you're playing is to stay within yourself. It's, you get, but I like what I'm hearing. I like what I'm hearing. I stopped you at that moment because Liszt writes a long pedal, which you disregard. Please don't. He wants you to pedal through those three chords. The trick is to do it with a crescendo, okay? Please, not too fast. This is another temptation. If you get playing too fast, if you show off in this moment, you can't go faster when we get to the più animato. Okay, so please don't. faster. More. Change. Here, I always have this imagination here that where we see something in the sky. You realize that one of the tortures of hell in the book is that you can actually see heaven. Yes? People in hell, they can look up. And however, in a copy of a student of Liszt music, we have some writing. We don't know if it's by Liszt or that student, but he writes that this moment is the appearance of the devil himself. We have to remember the Bible calls the devil Lucifer, of light, yes? And so you can imagine that a light starts to disperse this darkness. And I think it's important we have to have a different color there. So I would crescendo until the B flat major chord. Just a little more. Go on. I'm sorry to be so picky. We have this incredible chorale. We have to play it beautifully like a chorale, even though it's forte. Here we have perhaps more, and then back to F sharp, and we hear the suspension. I wonder if we could keep that in mind. By the way, it's a good idea that when you go to E major, you could add the B. This is from Earl Wild. You add a B. Instead of an octave, you put a B with the octave. Good. Maybe a little less. That. So don't you feel that chord a little tense? From your arm. I like how you did that. Remember, what's fascinating about this music is, the opening theme and how it moves. This is the same. This thematic transition, the music has been transformed. Can we skip ahead? We had this next moment. No, to the Lamentoso moment. No, before that, yes. Yes, maybe just before that, if you could. know that's a popular thing to do. I wouldn't try it. Not time. You know, you have to, I notice in your interpretation, you get rid of all of the pauses. And this is not something I would recommend. The pauses are extremely important because they create drama. Liszt writes here, improvisato, and you don't. You play very strict. I wonder if you can imagine that you make it up. I will help you. Yeah? Time. Be comfortable with time. Go. That's too much in time. No soft pedal, I would suggest. Maybe more. Now soft pedal, now and slower, perhaps. Good. Show the bass. No soft pedal at this moment. No soft pedal. Like I'm missing some beauty in the top. In other words, I would say this: if everything is beautiful, then nothing is beautiful. You know, if everything is pretty in the same way, we have to create contrast. If you, as Horowitz said, if we want something to be special, we have to surround it with things which are not special. Show the bass. Little soft pedal. Sing. Shh, listen. Good. And Liszt writes fermata on this note. And then he writes a silence. And he says lunga pausa, which you do not do. Please don't. It's very important. Very important. Try it. You do it. Make me listen. Shh, take your time, more than you think. So this is more beautiful. If there's a separation of texture, more singing and less of the accompaniment. Oh, you gotta catch the, yeah. There you go. Yeah, show the suspension. I'm sorry to be so picky. Different. You know, there's no indication that the melody is here. It would seem that the melody is here. However, there is an indication that the melody then does go to the thumb. I think that's more interesting because it sounds like a change in orchestration. I wonder if you could just try it. Top voice, top voice. Top. saying, you played so beautifully, but if we do it 2 times in a row, it's no longer beautiful. You know, so I would choose, it's up to you which one you want to play more. Can we get to the end of this passage? Maybe more. He writes here, weeping, weeping. Thank you. Not too slow, please. The dynamic is not piano. Not piano. Not piano. Not piano. And then this is the triple pianissimo. Shh, shh, shh. Shh. What's too loud? And he writes here, improvvisato. He says, little by little, we play affettuoso, more and more moving. Can we start slowly? Start it slowly. Shh, shh. This moment has the power to reduce your audience to absolute wonder. Shh, shh. Now just a little bit faster. No soft pedal by now. Moving ahead. Keep it moving. Keep going. It's not my idea. Keep going. Keep going. Please don't stop. It's not an nocturne. Even more. Hear the good. Now the melody's left hand is accompanied. Second time faster. A little faster. Left hand. Now right hand. Faster, please. Good. I think are we just about there? We're just about out of time? I'm not sure, but I think you're doing beautifully. Can you remember those things? Yeah. You know, reading the score in Liszt is so critical, because without that, the music has a hard time taking wing. You have to remember that Liszt considers himself the extension of Beethoven. He doesn't think of himself as this wild Superman that a lot of people have. He's just an extension of Beethoven. And so when he writes things in the score, he really, really means it. I wonder if we could go on. Here he says, please be free, and you can ad libitum, add octaves if you want. Different. Not too soft. Not too soft. This sounds really beautiful if you can. See what I mean? The touch, if you could, and then you become more legato. You just try it. Not the same. For me, this one's louder. Go ahead. This fingering gives you a little more. Oh, maybe different. Now you're fingering for this. not too soft. It's here that's very soft. Shh, shh. This is an alternative fingering, if you want. Yeah, it's very light. Yes, you're welcome. Different instruments. Good. I wish we had more time. But you're wonderful. You're wonderful and responsive, intelligent, talented young artist. Remember, when you play Liszt, you have to really focus on the musicality. It's really critical. Because there are people who are not Liszt lovers. And they look at people who play Liszt with some degree of suspicion. It's your job to win them over, you know? And the way to do it is you have to believe in what you're playing. You have to really believe, as Liszt did. So we come around to the first thing I told you. Read that book. And then all of those sounds will mean something even more to you, okay? Bravo to you, congratulations.
Let you play the whole thing, but I don't think we have that much time. So I just want to congratulate you on a beautiful performance. I was especially impressed with your sound, with your ear for color, and the way you pace things. So I thought it was a fantastic performance. And that being said, I just have a little question for you, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. Well, maybe I do, but if you have to tell me a few words that describe the character of the first movement, and then a few words that describe the character of the second movement, what would those words be?
Well, I know that Scriabin wrote about the water, and that the water is calm in the first movement, and then in the second movement it's perhaps more wild or raging or something.
I think that I love the way you describe this. And I'll tell you what I thought. What I thought when you play was that you certainly capture the sounds of water in the first movement. I was not so clear on the raging, you said raging wild in the second. That's where my concerns are. And see, this is a two movement sonata. So we don't have the luxury of a third movement balancing the whole structure of the piece. We only have two movements. So then I think it is very important that we have a very contrasting presentation of different characters, right? Yes. So I'm going to let you start the first movement, and I'm going to say a few things. For me, your beginning, the way I see it, it might be a personal thing. Sometimes in this kind of music, there's a lot of freedom that we can think about. For me, it sounded a little bit too deliberate. You know, he writes all these retards and then all these fermatas. I think that at the beginning he's just playing with a certain set of sonorities and harmonies, and then Scriabin was very interested in things that would start like a germ and then grow into something very, very important. So perhaps not don't be too strict. Listen to your own sound and listen to the silences in between your sounds. I think that you were a little metric for my taste. Give it a try. I'm going to interrupt you there. I think. Can you all hear me? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. This is conversation. So you have two retardandos, T, ya, ta, ta, and then you have it in a complete different harmony, T, ya, ta, ta. Do you think the two retardandos should be the same?
No.
Yeah, I think that maybe you can play around with the idea of a different timing in a different harmony. And then you do this pause there on the rest, which is correct. But then you look at Scriabin's pedal marking. He actually stands the pedal over that. I think that you could have a little bit of a break if you wanted to, but I find that the gap that you present between these two harmonies, it's a little too big and almost predetermined, like you almost count it internally. T, ya, ta, ta. Okay, now, T, if you have any kind of pause, it should be as if you were composing the piece and were deciding in that moment, okay, now I'm gonna do the dominant, but not something that is calculated. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
Try that. I think I would make tom, tom, tim, tom, like I'm trying to find what I'm going to do next. You presented very, very precisely, almost with a little militaristic character. I think he's still he's improvising. He's finding what it is that I'm going to do this about. So I would not start so loud, I would not start so ta-da, ta-da, maybe a little by little. Try that. And that one, for me, personally, is sort of like almost reflexive. So I'm going to be very rude, and I'm going to ask you to leave me a little space. So you have this. And then this one. This should be different, very, very special. It could be some other way, but definitely this should not sound like. And then you did something that a lot of people do, which is get too loud too soon. So be very, very careful with that. So now you see what I'm trying to get to do to this beginning, to not make it predictable, and to make it as if you were composing it yourself, as if you were Scriabin, and you don't know how the sonata is going to turn out. You're just simply feeling your way through harmonies, through ideas, right? Try. we're doing it here. And then the final result is mezzo forte. It's not forte, it's mezzo forte. Try it. But because this theme is so beautiful, I think that you have to set it up a little bit differently. So I think the sound that you get for this should not be any sound that we hear before. This should be completely different. So even, excuse me for a second, when you do this, piano, not too soft, because then this has to be special.
Now it's soft.
Yes. So you reserve that for that moment. How
Yes.
about from there? Do not forget ti ya pa pa, not ta ta ta. Ti ya ta ta, always. And then the way it's notated, ti do ti ta ti ti. That has a little emphasis. So even in pianissimo, you still have to be very careful with your articulation. Try. Why do you? Yeah, if you stay there, you change, which is what he has at the beginning, right? He has the diminuendo. Diminuendo.
Oh.
See, you're doing da 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 da. You're actually doing a crescendo and staying in the last. No, 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 no. As a commentary to this. Try it. Okay, so if you're going to use the una corda, which I think you should for this, not quite so deep, then you need to show me more of your top. But still not very loud at all. Once more, this was very, very nice. So you could play around besides the fact that one is major, the other one is minor. Some people do the minor more. There are many different ways of doing this. I think not only it could be a matter of volume, it could also be a matter of timing. I think that you kind of go through that a little very fast. I would make more of a deal with the timing. Maybe prepare ti, do, do, tom, ti, ta, ta, a slightly different timing for that. Try that. So one little thing that you do here, we hear a lot of that thumb.
Oh.
I want to hear that, so maybe not so deep. that that diminuendo doesn't sound like the diminuendo that you would do at the end of an idea, or even when actually he asks you to do a diminuendo. So, to give you an idea, excuse me for a second. You came down here a lot. But if you do that, then how do you justify the deceptive? Then you have no place to go here. So I will keep this a little bit more open. And now, and then he says it again. Finally, he gets somewhere, right? So I would structure it that way. If you come down too soon, just because the melody goes down, then you're interfering with the longer idea. Try that. Personally, I will do it more ti da 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 ti da da. Like he's insisting. It's a variation of what he just did, right? So it's like when you say something for a second time, most likely you're going to emphasize it even more. And then doesn't have to be that way, but that's what I find myself doing. If I have to repeat something to someone, most of the times I'm starting to get a little bit annoyed. So I'm going to say it even more, like with more emphasis. Try that. So make sure that you don't overdose your sound with una corda. So you have to be very careful where are you going to use that sonority so that it becomes special. Remember, you have a triple piano coming up. So if you give us that sonority too often, by the time you give us this super, super, super special moment, we have grown desensitized. We don't appreciate the full effect. So try to do different colors without una corda or with the una corda at different depths. Try it.
Go from here.
No measure. I like that left hand tenuto. That I don't think it has to be quite so obvious. I think that you can keep it in the context. And Scriabin had this fleeting quality to the flow of his music. So when he says here rubato, when all this section that you're gonna have then later with the variation, right? Try to keep the music flowing forward. Don't pull back too much unless he writes something like a retard. Because it is very, very easy to make this sound a little bit vertical. And you want this to sound always as it's moving somewhere, right? And I'm gonna keep going because we don't have a lot of time. And I wanna talk a lot about the second movement. There is something that you did very beautiful here, but I want to call attention to this. Now, this is very important. Don't give me an accent there. Because now there is an accent here. maybe from here, it's expressivo. Consider having a little bit more legato. Sometimes you use your fingers very much to do your tone. If you integrate your arm and your hand, and not just if you lock your arm and just move your fingers, then you're gonna get this. You want a little bit more smooth tone. Try. This is one of the most beautiful phrases I think ever composed. I would not rush ta 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 dee. I understand why you want to move it a little bit, but it sounds like every note is very much the same. I need more shape, and I think that because you're rushing, you're not able to care about the line quite as much. You were singing, da 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 dee da da da. You would know da 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 da, right? You wouldn't sing it that way. So don't feel like there is a metronome here. There are a million notes. I have to play all these notes. No, what's important for us is to hear that beautiful tone and beautiful pacing in that theme. Try it. You know, one of my teachers, Byron Janis, said to me once, in order to make a phrase very beautiful, people obsess about getting to the peak of the phrase, But he said, I find that the most important part of a phrase is the very end of the phrase. So he would stop me and he would say, that is where you're supposed to melt people's hearts. So those last two notes have to be the most beautiful notes you ever play. Try that. Now that was much better. I like that much more. This is difficult, right? It's very difficult to play. So what I would suggest when you play with your thumb, and I can't play as well as you do. What I do with my thumb, I kind of caress the key instead of going into, because I know you want to bring it. But if you think it with the entire arm, and you can think of caressing, and I think of this tone as being a little bit more, maybe perhaps brighter. As opposed to this one. In this one, I would like to have more arm weight, and perhaps not so much ping in the sound. You know what I mean? Instead of. Just to stay this. Just one, I love the way you started your development here. Can you play maybe from somewhere from here?
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Personally, for me, it's a little bit too much pedal. I think I would probably vibrate with my pedal. I want to hear this a little bit clearer that you're, and since you're holding the chords in the right hand, I think it's perfectly possible to, it's a nice change of texture there. Try that. Of course, you have to then, you have to really play those octaves very powerful because
Yeah.
otherwise they sound a little bit puny.
Yes.
But I think you can do it with your hand and you don't have to use such a long pedal. And then you get to this fortissimo here, which he doesn't write that many, right? It's fortissimo here. Make sure that you continue your phrasing. I don't understand. Ti, ti, ta, da, da, di. I have to hear that to understand the subito piano here. Ti, do, re, re. You want to try that? Maybe from. I want to hear those last three notes before, because that's what he leads. So you'll have to think about that a little bit more.
Okay.
And then for me, the arrival to your climax in the next page, I would pace it a little bit better. For me, you got there too soon, too fast. So something like. I will drop now.
It's
And
like
then-
a subito piano.
Not a subito, maybe not a subito piano, but I would drop. And then I would make it much more, you know what it has to sound? It has to sound ominous.
Okay.
And yours was almost happy. And then it has to grow, 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 grow until this becomes inevitable. So you have to produce that tension. So how about maybe from somewhere in there? Not too fast. If you get too fast, you lose a little bit of power. So yeah, better pacing of that. And they tell me that I have 3 minutes, so I must talk about the second movement. Can you start it just a little bit? So, what I would suggest that you think about one word for this beginning, and for a lot of it, the word relentless. There has to be an almost, for my taste, there has to be an almost inhuman quality about the evenness and the clarity of this. So if you play it like this, it's not clean. So I want this to be absolutely steady.
In time.
Yes, and then this. As clean as you can possibly play it.
Okay.
Try that. It's very hard. Your right hand gets away from your left hand. Keep them together.
I kind of understand what you're going for, but I think it was a little bit too much. And then I would not, this, you make it a little bit too sweet. For me, he says ben marcato el canto, and I would make it a little bit, you know, kind of like a pathetic feeling. And this is amazing harmony. And I would not do any diminuendo before all these diminuendos that you did, like this one. You did a diminuendo. I would do the opposite. I would be very angular. So crescendo at the very end, hasta until the very end, and then all of a sudden pianissimo. Make sure that you never play faster than you can hear every note. If you cannot hear every note, no matter how fast you play, the audience can never hear that. Especially in a hall like this, which might have sound reverberation. If you play too fast, then you're not going to be clean, and we're not going to appreciate what you do. And then the last thing I will say to you, it's in the very end. You have this very beautiful chords. Ti, ti, pa, pi. You have to decide which one of those you're gonna make the most climatic, and for me, it's that one.
Would it not be this one because it's later?
Oh, that's what I meant.
Oh,
That one.
Yeah.
I will make that one the biggest one, and I will make sure that my hands are together in that moment, because you kind of like broke it down.
I'm kind of doing.
Yeah, that for me takes away some of the power of it. So can you just do the very end? So don't break it. That's a Chopin-esque. So we understand that. That's it. That's the final. He's just kind of like shaking his fist and saying, I don't know how else to say this anymore. So it has to be that dramatic. So I think my ideas relate to the difference between the first and the second movement. The second movement may be much more dramatic, much more relentless, much more ominous. To me, it was too sweet, and at times almost like Debussy, too much. And to me, it has to be much more emotional. The first movement, I congratulate you. You played so beautiful, so many beautiful details. I would maybe experiment with better legato without the pedal, and all these things that we talked about, pacing and arriving to your climaxes at the right time and not being too early. And even though it's Scriabin, pay attention to his notation, what he does. Pay attention to his markings, and try it his way. If then you need to do something else, well, have a good idea why you're doing what you're doing. But at least look at what he wrote first, because the ideas that he writes sometimes just illuminate the music. Okay? Congratulations, really great
Thank
job.
you. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me? I'm not going to try to go without the microphone because I know you won't hear me. So everyone, this is Brian Lynn, and he's from California. How old are you, Brian? He's just 15, and he played today the first movement of the Appassionata Sonata of Beethoven, and then he played the Prokofiev Third Sonata, which is a single movement sonata. And Brian, congratulations. I just wanted to tell you that some of the things that I really liked about your playing today is that you were feeling the gestures. You were so expressive and gave character to each gesture in the music in both styles in a way that I felt that you were very human about that, like you understood the language of those musical gestures, and you actually separated them so that the music didn't go so fast that you ran through them without giving each one its attention. And I think that's remarkable for a 15-year-old. So I really want to congratulate you on that. And I just thought I was wondering, how long have you been playing the Prokofiev Sonata? Okay, so as he said, about 3.5 months. This is a really scary piece to play in public because it's so, I mean, it's a toccata that just keeps going and going, right? And so that's wonderful that you were able to play with the poise that you played today, with it being a fairly new piece. So I just wondered, I thought maybe there were some things that we could do that would be help you to get some of the contrasts a little bit more, and maybe just help you to execute your ideas a little more with some variations of touch or pedal and things like that. So I'm going to ask him to play probably just the exposition at first, and then we'll get into it. this is a very, very inventive piece, isn't it? There are so many fantastic melodies, and Prokofiev himself talked about the fact that lyricism is a real important aspect of his style. And have you listened to any of the ballets of Prokofiev? Oh, I really recommend that. Absolutely. I mean, maybe start with Romeo and Juliet, just, you know, and watch it on YouTube with the video of the dancing. You will be amazed at how gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous those melodies are. I mean, a lot of times we think of Prokofiev, we think of the motoric, toccata-like style, and certainly we hear that in this sonata. But then we have the contrast with the lyricism. So I think that possibly you're doing a little bit better with the lyricism than you are with the motoric toccata elements at this moment. So a lot of that has to do with the fact that you're not taking quite enough advantage of playing dry, like playing without the pedals sometime. Can you play just the introductory 3 bars? 2 bars. Yeah, okay, good. Just a sec. Let's see. I'm gonna take your place. So I think it's good, you know, you need to have that percussiveness at the beginning, and you need to have the pedal at the beginning for that. But then after that, I think it might be better to get that sort of motoric style to actually not play with so much pedal. Maybe you could maybe just graze the top of the pedal, but if you do, it doesn't have that motor that we need. So let's start with the. Okay, let's start with the pedal and with a big accent. Right, good. And go ahead and play your left hand as loudly as your right hand. Da 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 dee da da dee da dee da da dee da. So it's not da 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 da. You could start on the key. Right. Relentlessly. You can't make a diminuendo on that. Good. Now, he says fortissimo on this melody, and he has an accent on all 4 of the first 4 notes. So when you see forte and you see accents, you still have to shape. You still have to shape. Dee da dee dee da dee da da, right? Okay? So yes, accent, but still give us the sense of the shape in the line. Good, great, good. Now what about the left hand? What should the left hand be doing? Let's hear the left hand by itself. Yes, so your left hand is playing 2 voices, right? That is in response to the melody. So I actually would like to hear a little bit more of that desperation of your left hand, okay? Yes. Good. Okay, then here's an opportunity for you to dry it up. It's marked staccato. Try not to pedal anything that's marked staccato. Good, good, excellent. And now fortissimo again. Keep it up. Yeah, you know, I'm not sure I agree with detaching right there. da, dee, dee, da, that. So this is, I think, the first half of your phrase, right? Then the second half. Again, dry. This is where it becomes, we go from melody to toccata, from to motor. Yata-ta-ta-ta-ta. So this is also melodic, right? Don't forget about the fact that the melody actually starts here. Da-da-dee-ya, ba-da-da. So it's, I know that it's piano to mezzo forte, but still, we have to have the sense that that's the beginning of the phrase. Could you play the right hand by itself? That's good, that's good. And then what's going on in the left hand? Okay, great. Let's try this again. I think this is a little too quick. That aspect of having a seventh in the melody is one of the other stylistic aspects of Prokofiev. He himself said that the grotesque was part of his style. I think that's something grotesque in this melody. We're leaping up, and then we're leaping down and landing on a seventh. So I wouldn't play it like a grace note. I would play it like those are melody notes. Tia, 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 da-da. So finish the idea. This gives you the opportunity to show the intensity of the first ending compared to the sweetness of the second ending. Beautiful. I suggest you keep your left hand just a little looser. So shake it out. Yeah, really loose. Just shake it like this. Because it seems a little labored the way you're playing it. Yeah. So could you feel from right to left a little bit better? Right, left, right, left. Throw it, so the right to your left. That's the awkwardness of the microphone. It's like you can't keep running to the piano. So if you are thinking down, up, it's going to take too long, right? So you have to make it part of the same movement. This way, not down, up, down, up. So that's slowing you down there. That should feel like just 3 bounces. Da-da-da. Right? Integrate the 2 hands. Just play that. Ba-ba. Closer to the keys. Can you try this approach rather than this approach? See if that helps you. Yeah. I think physically that's better. Now, let's see if we can get the contrast a little bit better. So you have, it's marked secco, which means what? Dry. Okay. Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, be-dum, ba-dum, ja-da, right? So it's, you know, it's not like it's fortissimo or anything, but can you change the character of that? You know, it's interesting how this masterclass has gone from hell, Dante, to heaven, that Scriabin Sonata. Now we're kind of back to hell again a little bit. There's some, you know, again, with the sort of grotesque, and, you know, sometimes it just gets nasty. And sometimes when we're playing Prokofiev, you know, we can go from something that's gorgeous and soaring melody to something that actually just kind of, it's not so nice. You don't always have to make a gorgeous sound when you want to play something that's a little bit, you know, uncomfortable. So see if you can make us feel a little uncomfortable about that ending. Yeah, I think it's okay to do a tiny little polka ritornado there. Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 Good. So here's my suggestion for doing the little actually, your touch is really very good on the pianissimo, but now we have this legato, we have a slur, right? So I really suggest you stay extremely close to the keys at the beginning of that little lick here, and then make your fingers more and more active as you go, all right? So it's almost like you're gonna be spreading peanut butter at first, and then electricity. Good, but don't change your tempo. Keep the tempo going, but do that with the touch, okay? Close to the keys, and go. Yeah, good. That's the idea. You're letting yourself slow down a little bit. Keep it driving. So try not to think note, note, note. Keep your fingers just a little closer to the keys. Sometimes if your fingers are too active, it's actually going to sound like every note is important. In this case, with this slur, we want it to feel like, right? So closer. And we also do not want to feel the triplets. Da 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 da. We just went from that. Okay, daga 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 daga. Good. All right. So this needs to feel like, we finally made it to the top there, right? Let's play this long line again and see if you can keep that crescendo going all the way and arrive to that point. Your left hand can help you now, because since we've arrived to the top, what is the left hand doing? No, it's going to help you with that driving quality. So da 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 da. Good. Yeah, a little drier here. You can pedal the accent, but not this. I wouldn't pedal the octaves. Okay, good. That's great. So that's the little secret of staying super close to the keys on those slurs, and then changing your touch, right? You know, so a lot of times when we play a scale or a passage, we think about, we'll change our sound. We'll start piano and we'll do a crescendo. But I want you to think about also changing your touch from beginning to end. So you can do instead of just a crescendo in volume, you can do a crescendo in the activity of your touch, right? It can become gradually drier. It can also become gradually more legato if you want, depending on what the passage is. All right, shall we do some of the moderato? Yes, very nice. The left hand, I think, can be a little more sinister, don't you? Right hand is tranquilo, but the left hand is saying, something going on sinister behind the scenes. Beautiful, good. You can experiment with playing some notes more slurred together with your fingers, sort of overlap, and some less. So what might be some places where you can play super legato, so legato that it's almost overlapped. Yeah. Okay, good. Let's just use that intuition you have and play around with your touch a little. It's marked semplice, simple, and dolce, sweetly, and I think you're really accomplishing that. There's something very odd about this section. It's actually kind of contrapuntal, and it's not just, but you have, it's almost like it's a canon, right? So the melody restarts in another voice. So let's hear, and then again. Don't hide that note. That you're trying to bring a new color out, but actually the measures that you just played, the first 4 bars, were probably too soft, because now we have pianissimo. So actually you have to change the color the opposite way. You were trying to make it work by changing the color by going louder, but actually we need to get softer. So can you play a little more deeply into the keys? Let's play from here. Sing, sing. Keep singing more alto too. Now, shh. And now change the orchestration, singing out. Is it strings maybe? Change the color again. Shh. Can you imagine just like crystal here? Just crystal. Play in such a... Here, let's try this just for effect. Play with the pedal as normal, but I want you to just play staccato. No, actually play with the pedal as normal, but I want you to, both hands, especially the right hand, to play like that. This is not how you're going to end up playing it. This is just a practice experiment. Pedal. Okay, good. So you got just a little bit different quality of sound, a little bit more ringing up on top. Now, what we did here is play quite legato. And now that we're up here in this other octave, we really want to have a different color. So now just take a little of that, what we did. Okay, we're gonna, our recipe, we're gonna just put a teaspoon of that in there, okay? And left hand still legato, play the right hand with just a little bit more crystalline touch. Ooh, I love that, yeah. Okay, so that's just an idea, but that's the kind of thing, the contrast that I was talking about that you can be thinking about. As you live with this piece longer and longer, you're going to find these things that you can do with the sound. All right, shall we jump to the Allegro tempestoso, feroce, ferociously. Let's see how you do that. I'm not convinced. So actually what you need to do, Brian, is detach more. That doesn't mean you can't use your pedal, but you need to play everything. Sorry. You need to play with your arm weight on every single one of those in order to get the sound, okay? Yeah, I mean, it's not practical to go like this forever, but it's only 2 bars. So I really want to see if you can make your arm weight bounce on every one of those for 2 bars. Yeah, right. So, I mean, if neither you nor I have, big, huge sausage fingers, and some people with, lots of weight in their fingers can get fortissimo without using arm to help. But I think that, most of us need to literally use either hand to support the finger or forearm, okay? Play a little bit under tempo for me with that approach. Da, da, dee, da. Just throw your hand down with each one. Yeah, and you can even play almost legato doing that. So almost like you're reluctant to leave the key, but you keep having to throw it down. That's better, right. Okay, your right hand did a little better than your left. Okay, thank you. Let's play both hands. One is going up, one is going down. We want to hear that contrary motion. Good. And where does it explode? Yeah, I think you can play that with more power. That's better. Good. So here's one of those places where playing with a gorgeous sound maybe is not the priority. So I would use a little bit more of a straight finger. So if you play this way, you only have your finger power. If you play this way, you can actually use your whole arm to support the finger. Yeah, good. It's a contrasting sound, right? If you don't want it to be too percussive, just don't go too far away from the key, because we also don't want that knocking sound, right? So you can still play kind of with pokey fingers and get a very penetrating sound without it being too percussive. Okay. Okay, there are 2 things I want. We have just a couple minutes. 2 places I want to cover. One is this, and the other is the place that almost took you off the rails today, and then you recovered really, really well. But that's a really tough spot later on, right, with the repeated notes. Okay. This is what is very, very hard to have the stamina and strength for. So can we start from the marcatissimo here? Let's try both hands, forte, not just your right hand. Make us feel really, really upset and angry, right? Yes, good. You have to have an arrival to the top. So use your pedal to help you with that, okay? Make sure that you've got full pedal right there at that crescendo, right up to the accent. Yeah, okay, so that's another spot where you have to use more of your whole. You can't do this with your fingers, it's just not enough. So even if you change your fingers, try to go at it that way. That's good, okay. And then we're gonna have to just move on to the other spot that I wanted to talk to you about. Oh my gosh, this spot's scary, isn't it? But you actually played it quite well. It's just that when you finished it, maybe you didn't quite believe how well you played it, and it was like, and then you caught your breath. So let's just start right there. Good, good. All right, I would like you to try it. It's just a little under tempo, and it's also over volume. Can you play pianissimo? Okay, good, good, good. Not bad. Could I hear your right hand play this diminuendo? Yes, yes. Great. Okay. So, in order to get your poise for a performance, I think these kinds of places, what you want to do is have moments of where you feel completely relaxed. So I would practice this probably in groups. First, 1 measure groups, 2 measure groups, 4 measure groups, with just feeling that you feel completely relaxed and poised at every beginning and every end, okay? Because otherwise this can start to, I think what happened is you got a little tense, you got tight, and then it was hard to make your body continue, right? So that's just a little bit of advice on practicing. Okay, I'm gonna let you finish this piece for us because it's the end of our afternoon, and I think that you could send off the end of a great day with playing a very exciting ending. I'm just gonna ask you to do one thing, and that is play more staccato. And also try an experiment of starting just a little slower and allow yourself to maybe pick up the tempo. Then boom, 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 and then once you get to the tempo you're comfortable with, just hold it to the end, okay? And see if you can make this feel more like a very exciting march, a devilish march.